Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to your second notes here. I just realized I just recorded all of this without pushing the recording button. So, um, you won't get to see me go exactly step through step, but I'll talk you through it here. So, you're supposed to do this in the first part of the notes. Refresh your memory for today. When we are solving an absolute value that has anything attached to it, you have to get rid of the attached part first. So we have to add the 8, so we get just the absolute value by itself on the left side. And then when I added 8, it changed it to 10. Then from that point, you're all set to break it up into your OR statement. So we get x plus 5 equals 10, or we get x plus 5 equals a minus 10. We go through and subtract 5, which I did in both steps, subtracting 5. So we get x equals 5, or we get x equals minus 15. Always good to check your work mentally or plug it back in before you move on to this. So I just checked it mentally. This will be the second time I checked it. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. Or minus 15, that gives us a negative 10 in here, which turns out to be a positive 10. 10 minus 8 is still 2. So x is 5 and minus 15 for that. So continuing on the back side here, again, I apologize for this. Thought it was recording the first time. Starting again, when you have a less than symbol here with our absolute value, we are going to get an and statement, which means we are going to get a range there. So I'll just do that so I'm not so focused in here. So we get a nice and statement. So again, how do we write it? We start out by dropping the absolute value, writing the 2s minus 1. Keep the signs going the same way on either side. And then we have our positive 11 and then our minus 11. I personally, when I'm doing the left part of this, I like to put my 2s minus 1 first so that I know my arrow is pointing the right direction when I'm graphing it out. So we have 2s minus 1, open towards the 2s minus 1, and then that's greater than minus 11. We add 1 to each side, we get 2s is greater than minus 10. We divide by 2 because it's multiplication here. So we divide by 2 and we get s is greater than minus 5. Our other equation, we just use it just as it is. So 2s minus 1 is less than 11 because again the s is on the left side already, so I want it on the left side. So we add 1 to both sides. 2s is less than 12. Again, I got to get rid of the 2 from multiplication. So we divide by 2, and s is less than 6. From there, we put it back together. So my minus 5 on the number line is further left, my 6 is further to the right, and my s goes in the middle. And this shows us our range. Or again, if you want to just look at the individual ones you did, you can tell which way you're supposed to start shading towards. So on this one, remember they are open circles on the 6 and the minus 5. Arrow points to the right, arrow points to the left. We have to satisfy both of these because this is an and statement. So it is a range. So then we get our range there. Super important to check your work. If the zero's there, I like to use it. So I did use it. 2 times 0, just plugging it back into the original. Minus 1 has to be less than 11. That all cleans up to 1 is less than 11. So my range is 100% correct. All right. For the next one here, like again, I apologize. Thought I was recording all this, and turned out I wasn't. We just did the warm up. When you're doing an absolute value with an equal sign or an absolute value with an equality sign, you have to get the absolute value all by itself. So in this particular one here, we do have to add the 8 first, because we got to get the absolute value by itself. So we add 8 to both sides. That brings us down to 3 times the absolute value of 5m minus 6, less than or equal to 21. Absolute value is still not by itself yet, so we have to divide by 3 on both sides. Now we have the absolute value by itself. 5m minus 6 is less than or equal to 7. Again, I have a less than or less than equal to sign, so this is going to be an and a range. So we rewrite this as minus 7 is less than or equal to 5m minus 6, which is less than or equal to 7. All right, so we rewrite it there. From there, I like to break it up to the following. I like to put my 5m minus 6 first. So again, make sure you keep the mouth open towards that. So the sign does flip around because we're flipping the positions. So the sign flips with it. So 5m minus 6 is greater than or equal to 7, which that's how we'd read that. And the second part, leave exactly the same. 5m minus 6 is less than or equal to 7. We continue to do our adding of 6 to both sides. So add 6, add 6, add 6, add 6. Readjust. So we get 5m is greater than minus 1, and a 5m is less than or equal to 13. Next step, we got to get rid of the 5s. So we're going to divide by 5, which we already started to see. So we divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. And we get our answers. M is greater than or equal to a minus 1/5. And I change this, ladies and gentlemen, to our mixed number. M is less than or equal to 2, because 5 goes into 13 twice. That gets us to 10. And then how much is left over? There's 3/5 left over. So 2 3/5. Which then we can go ahead and put that together like I did down here because I was running out of space. So minus 1/5, less than or equal to sign M, less than or equal to sign 2 3/5. And again, with the sign as a less than or equal to or a less than sign, you are going to get a range here. So again, 0 happens to be one of my answers. So I plugged 0 back into the original to make sure it makes sense. So I plugged it right back into this equation, the original one. So we get 3 and a minus 6, which that turns out to be a positive 6. So 6 times 3 is 18. Then we subtract 8 from it, less than or equal to 13. When you subtract 8, 10 is less than or equal to 13. This is a correct statement. So yes, 0 is one of our correct answers, which it should be because it's in our range. Now I'm going to have you do this one by yourself here. Notice it is a greater than or equal to sign. So that means it is going to be an or statement. So you will not have a range here. So you should have some answers that are less than and some answers that are greater than when you get this one done. So I will provide the answers to this so you can check them when you're done with these notes. All right. Next here, story problem. You're planning on you are on a planning committee for a school dance. Ticket sales for the last 10 dances were 133, 178, 205, 220, 186, 142, 138, 204, 216, and 198. First question asks, find the mean number of tickets sold. Mean is just another way to say find the average. All right, so mean means average. So when you're doing this, we have to add up all of these numbers, and I would do it twice. I did it twice on my calculator just to make sure that the sum comes out exactly the same both times, because it's very easy to mistype one of these numbers in, and then if you get the sum wrong, you're definitely not going to get the average correct either. So the sum does come out to 1,820. From there, we have to divide because we're looking for the average. So we're dividing by the data points. So we have a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there are 10 data points. So we're going to take the 1820, divide by 10, which means our average tickets sold are $182. And again, if this came out to a decimal, ladies and gentlemen, you could not leave it as a decimal answer because tickets sold, tickets are one whole thing there. So you'd round down or up, just depending on how you're looking at it. Continuing to answer here, it says the dance committee estimates that they will sell the mean number of tickets with an absolute deviation of at most 40 tickets. How many of those ticket sales to the previous 10 dances were within the range? So that's kind of why we practiced the story problem on the front yesterday to help us with these notes here today. So when you are asked for the absolute value here, deviation is 40. Here's how you set it up. We take our 182 and we're going to subtract that from x. So x minus 182 absolute value is less than or equal to 40. That's what the at most 40 comes into play. Then from there, again, we got to get rid of our absolute value as we're solving this. So this is a less than or equal to sign, so it is an and statement because we are getting a range. And they even ask us, they kind of hint at it right here, you are going to get a range. So we get minus 40, less than or equal to x minus 182, less than or equal to 40. Which I started to do my work over here. So again, I flipped it just in case I have to graph it out. So again, when you flip it, make sure you turn everything, even the sign. And our x comes out to being greater than or equal to 142. The right side, keep it exactly the same. Add 182 to both sides, and x is less than or equal to 222. So our final range is 142 all the way up to 222. So then the last part says, how many of the ticket sales to the previous 10 dances were within the range? So 133 is not. That's why I underlined it. 178 is, 205 is, 220 is, 186 is, 142. Yes, that counts because of the equal to sign. So it can equal these actual numbers here. So 142 is in. 138, that one's out. 204, 216, and 198 are all in. So to answer the question, 8 of our 10 dances were within this range. So that is the final answer there. I probably should circle that because it's part of my answer as well. So please make sure you check your work here on this one. Do it first. Then if you need to copy it on here the correct way, if you did it incorrectly, do that. But do it first, then check your work here. All right? Before you just go and copy. You don't get anything from copying. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.